All right, how you guys doing today? We're going to hop into the review of Proverbs chapter 29. This is going to be part 3. The first things first, though, would love to make sure that you like the video, hit a little exit full screen, scroll just a little bit, like the video, and then full screen it back up. You feel me? All right, so we left off with verse 12. If a ruler hearken to lies or listens to lies, all his servants are wicked. And so I really like the way that the commentary words this, right? If a ruler pays attention to lies, all his servants become wicked, right? Because it's not just that he listens to lies, right? You can listen to anything. It doesn't necessarily mean that, something's going to come out of that, right? I mean, chances are that it will, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. But if he pays attention to the lies, right? If he treats them the same as if they're the truth, which could be virtuous in some different contexts, right? But pays attention to lies, the commentary says anybody in authority will have many who want to use his or her power or position for their own advancement, right? So when somebody pays attention to lies, the servants can see that the ruler can be influenced by those lies, right? And typically the servants, they're already close to the king, they have a little bit more power or a little bit more prestige to the king, right? They're held in a little bit more regard because they already serve him. So when they see that he pays attention to lies from strangers or from anybody really, in that matter, them already being close to the king may say, what can I do with that? And they see that he takes that same as the truth, they're more inclined to use it like the truth. And then not only the servants, right? Because then the servants are going to be wicked and they're going to run out there and say, the king can be influenced by lies to everybody around. And then it just leads to, Newton's third law. Basically, every effect has an equal and opposite effect also. So servants are going to do it. A king listens to it. Chances are the whole kingdom is going to fall into corruption, right? Verse 13, the poor and deceitful man meet together. The Lord lightens both their eyes. So when I first read this, right, it seemed to be, to me, that the poor man and the oppressor, right? So somebody and the oppressor, the Lord will give light to both their eyes. This is going to be seen in many different contexts. So the first light obviously can be that he gives both of them sight to see, and a light that lights both of their ways physically, the way that we all see light and all that, unless you're blind. And of course, then, not really talking about that, but the eyes of both, he gives them light, such as he said, the rain falls on the just and the unjust, right? No partiality with God, no bias. They both get the same light. Or in the commentary sense, this could say that it gives some light, some kind of revelation in creation or conscience to every person, like Romans talks about. So they are without reason to not believe in God because they can look around and see that everything points back to him. But also you can see revelation not only just in creation and conscience, but also revelation as a whole, right? We all have our built-in conscience, which is a revelation telling us what's good, what's bad, what's right, and what's wrong, and to bring us closer to God in that sense too, which is technically also creation and conscience. My bad, I didn't even see that, right? But in that sense of saying like, oh, everything can be drawn to God, but also but God gives everybody revelations through their conscience at all points in time, right? You're always hearing stuff, right? If you're like me, God speaks out through your voice when you're talking to yourself. Sometimes you're just sitting there like, God was quick with that answer, right? I was talking to myself earlier today, or just like thinking to myself, and my voice was like, no, no. And I was like, dang, caught myself mad quick with that. Or I was like, I guess that was God, because I didn't even think about that. I just asked myself a question. He was like, no, you good? And I was like, all right. I don't really remember what the question was, but I just remember taking it back. I was like, that was fast. It was faster than usual, right? It was a little caught me off guard. Verse 14, the king that faithfully judges the poor, throne shall be established forever. This is the promise. This is just the observation by Solomon, right? The king that faithfully judges the poor, chances are they're looking over everybody with no partiality, right? Because they care about the least of them, which means you care about the most of them. And we talked about this in the reaction, where it's like, if you care about everybody, chances are things are going to get better in your country, right? There's a lot more money to be made. People will be happy. And chances are when everybody's happy and everything's going good, your throne should be established for the foreseeable future, right? Right. Verse 15, the rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings his mother to shame, right? So obviously we can see not only a mother, there's verses where it says a father as well, but it's the same type of deal. The rod and reproof gives wisdom, but a child left to himself brings his mother to shame. And we see this nowadays more than ever, where the fatherless household rate is the highest it has ever been, at least in America. And this leads to a whole host of issues, more jail, more drug abuse, sexual violence, all that type of stuff, right? All of this increases when a father is outside the home. So while a mother can give the rod and reproof, it's better coming from a father, regardless of if the child's a man or woman, or a boy or a girl, because a father is the head of the household, right? The woman submits to the man the same way Jesus submitted to God, So, and the man submits to God or to Jesus, both, whole type of deal, right? So the mom is supposed to submit to them, but they don't have any to submit to. So they have to assume that, but that's not their place to lead. So it makes it that much harder to actually lead. So the rod and reproof from a father will give wisdom. A mother's will also, because a mother in some sense is still also to lead the household. But regardless of that fact, a child left to himself brings his mother to shame. Ideally, back then, right, the mom would stay home and take care of the kids, kind of deal, and dad would go out and work and all that type of jazz. So, child left to himself, I won't say that insinuates that there's no father, but we can read it through the lens of today where there is a lot of kids with no fathers. So the mothers have to step out and the kids are left to their own devices. And you can hear this a lot through popular culture and music and all this type of stuff where it's like, if the kids are left to themselves, chances are they find somebody else to look up to and somebody else to idolize. And you can have instances where you may see this in movies or TV shows where it's like, oh, a teacher takes them in and they learn a lot of stuff from that sense. Or back in those times, in like early colonial times, it would have been you pick up a trade, you follow around a tradesperson, right? If you don't, you're left to your own self, but you pick up a trade, or you're just hanging out with other neighborhood kids. Or nowadays, right, people are looking for people to join gangs and all that stuff, because when kids are left alone, they're outside but they don't have anybody to look to. They see these dudes chilling outside selling drugs, they're making money, whatever the case is, and these guys they're looking at the kid like, oh, newest recruit right there. They don't have no guidance, I can guide them into something. And then the cycle perpetuates, and now that kid's in there, and that leads to early deaths, and that can bring their mother shame or just sadness as a whole, right? So this is a real issue going on today in America, at least, but also I think all over the world. Maybe not to the same extent like fatherless households, but still like gangs and all that. It's all over the world. Verse 16, when the wicked are multiplied, transgression increases, but the righteous shall see their fall. So when the wicked are multiplied, so when there's a gathering of wicked people, transgression increases. Why? Because they have no guidance there, right? And even still, when the wicked are multiplied, if I go somewhere with one of my non-Christian friends and other non-Christian friends show up, that still counts as wicked being multiplied, and transgression increases, right? We've talked about this before, where it's you should hang around with like-minded people, because what friendship does Christ have with something? James 4:4, your adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. And it doesn't mean you can't have worldly friends or that type of jazz, but you hanging out with a worldly person and then more worldly people come by, in my experience, it generally leads to more peer pressure and me doing stuff that I necessarily wouldn't do when I'm by myself or with my Christian friends, which isn't a good thing. So regardless, where the wicked are multiplied, transgression does increase, but the righteous shall see their fall. The only thing is you better not get too roped into them to where they're seeing your fall, or your Christian friends or the righteous people around you are going to see your fall from being roped in with those wicked people when they're multiplied, right? Verse 17, correct thy son and he shall give thee rest, he shall delight unto thy soul. So this is talking about the same thing we talked about earlier, the rod and reproof. Correct your son, hit him with them when you need to hit him, do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm seeing a lot of things on social media where parents are now making their kids do like physical exercise, which I think has always been a thing, but now more so than ever, in my opinion, it's getting better, where a lot of people are making their kids do physical exercise as punishment. So at least there's a bettering, because I think that's a really good illustration of what a loss or an L is supposed to hold, especially for children, right? They may be too young to see it, but regardless, when there's pain, there's growth. When there's a loss, there's still a lesson to be learned. So when you take an L, it may stand for loss, but you also could take a lesson, right? You could take I was talking to one of my friends about this, is like, regardless of whatever you do, if you mess up, you find another way that you don't need to do it. And I just heard this recently too, quote from Thomas Edison. He's like, if I fail 1,000 times, I just found 1,000 ways that aren't going to work, or something along those lines. Maybe even 10,000. I don't really know. But the point still stands, right? You mess up, you find something that doesn't work, and then you could do something else with a more chance of making it work, right? Because just doing the same thing over and over again, expecting it to work, isn't necessarily the smartest thing. But if you take those lessons away from it, you're going to improve and you're going to learn. And that's how you improve, just by going over. So when you correct your son, he's going to give you rest, because you know that, hey, he messed up once, but now going into the situation, he knows what to do. So you can relax. And he shall delight your soul, because hey, I did something good. Yeah, we did good. We did good there. Verse 18, Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keeps the law, happy is he. And he said, Pastor Paul in the sermon said that this verse is very popular because it means when there's no vision, speaking of like prophetic vision or a revelation from God, the people can perish, but he that keeps the law, happy is he. So when there's no prophetic vision or revelation of God is basically the same as not keeping God first. God is not bringing anything into your life to where you can see different or see clearly or do the things that he intends, because there's no revelation, right? There's no vision from God. There's no help from God, which is typically, usually, a result of your own actions and drifting away, right? Maybe God will not, do anything just to let you learn or something, put you out there on your own for a little bit, maybe, but chances are it's because we walked away a little bit. So when there is no vision, when you keep God last or not first, the people are going to perish, right? But back then they kept the law. Now keeping the law just kind of means like staying in right relationship with God. Happy is that person because he's going to get God's blessings and God's gift of being in his life and leading him from right and wrong and all that type of jazz. He's going to be there every step of the way with you, and you will not perish. Not now, and not in the end either. All right, that's going to be the end of the video. Hope you guys have yourself a fantastic rest of your day. Peace.